The next page is a kind of just a layout of what I put in the report here. Section 1 is, again, the first part of that is what you guys saw a few months back, where I gave you kind of a spreadsheet of your equipment when I took it and organized it as an inventory to get a better view of looking at it and then start doing some analysis off it. So as you flip into this in the section 1, you saw this, but you saw this part of it where I showed you guys the backlog you guys had on some turnover. But the part on the right side, the blue there, the equipment utilization, what I did is I took all your equipment and then went into the state averages for utilization to see, so kind of a first step once you organize the data to look at, okay, is there easy low hanging fruit here where we're just not utilizing some equipment enough? And maybe we should go take a look at whether we can reorganize the fleet and maybe downsize some fleet. And I guess the one thing that stands out with that is, number one, the backlog is really big because you have a lot of old equipment that hasn't been turned over, which I went through before. The utilization, what I'm seeing is your utilization is pretty good, actually. So when you look at this top sheet, you only see one that I kind of highlighted in red, but vast majority, I mean, you're hitting the state averages, even above the state average, actually, in that all those main trucks for your fleet. And that just tells me that you guys are doing a pretty good job of actually moving, vehicles out and not keeping too many pieces of equipment around that aren't being used a lot. And again, this utilization data is off state averages. So we have all the county state averages. You put that in the average, then you kind of get a look at your own fleet, how you're doing against the state average. So your first sheet is your plow trucks, single axles, and your tris and quads, and all plow. Go to the second page, and that's what we went through before. Small truck fleet, all your pickups and small trucks, and then your your specialized trucks, your sign truck, distributor truck, water truck, and all those. In those, you'll see to the right, you'll see more red. You'll see some that are actually under the state averages by a fair amount again. So this area is probably the one area that could be worked on a little bit, is on the utilization side, is can we pare this fleet down a little bit again and help our equipment operations out, because we're maybe carrying a few too many small trucks, or even the specialized truck areas. There's something we could do here differently as we move forward. So that's that page. Go to the next page. Your kind of your heavy equipment area, your loaders, dozers, backhoes, graders, pavers, rollers, tractors, all that stuff is in this page. So that's everything you guys own right now. Again, you have a fair amount that have up there in years. You're up there 20, 25, 30 years. So you see that in your backlog numbers. And the utilization numbers, again, it's some areas in there that I think there could be some improvement and maybe paring down a few fleets here and there, but nothing that's really striking when I look at this compared to some other counties I've analyzed, where I've had a lot more things on the low utilization end where we actually could pare down some fleets quite a bit more. So I guess that's just kind of gives you an idea on that. So the next page after that is support equipment. Again, this is stuff that's not drivable equipment. This is your trailers, your routers, your crack seal equipment, your spray patch or things like that would be in this grouping. It's just kind of all your miscellaneous stuff. It's usually lower value. Again, there are a few higher value items in here, but it kind of we kind of lump it all together into one big group. Look at it as a group, not necessarily each piece individually. So that is all your equipment right there, all your primary equipment. Next page is what I think I may have showed you guys this before. I can't remember. But it's the challenge you guys actually have right now is when I look at that turnover, that first part of that turnover plan, I'm looking at pretty normal turnover years. So when you go back when you have time, look at the spreadsheet, you'll see I'm trying to turn trucks over at 10, 11 years, 12 years, 13 years. If you're beyond that, I'm putting it into a backlog. If you're beyond a normal turnover for a tractor or all these different areas, I'm putting that into a backlog because you haven't turned it. You got a 30-year-old loader, it's well beyond what you normally turn a loader at. When you do that, you come up with $8.8 million. That's a huge number, obviously. It's a backlog. Most counties, we do this process. You're going to have a backlog. It's a matter of how big it is, and then what things can we do to overcome that. And the challenge you guys have when you look at this first page is the bottom is right now with your equipment fund, with what you're charging your rates, you're only on average over the last 3 or 4 years creating about $280,000. It's less than $300,000. Supplementing that with other funding, which I know it's impossible nowadays to find capital funding for anything, and you guys have done a little bit of that, but there's a challenge to get over. So that's kind of the whole first section of getting all organized, looking at it all. I'll flip over to section 2. We start going from that first step to the second step, which I went through this here about a month ago, adjusted as we took it, looked at the utilization. I put it all on this one page, on the first page of that section 2. You see kind of the low utilization list. where we pull everything in there. We do that just to sort of look and see, is there anything here besides management things? Is there anything we could maybe sell or pare down some fleets? Step one, step two is looking at, is there any ways we can improve our utilization of our equipment if we can't get rid of it, you know? So that's the first page here, is kind of showing everything that's in that low utilization area. So one more page in then is, and again, this is a testament to, you know, the highway department and what they've been doing, because many of these things that when I started this process, they were things that were being turned over or sold already or were on lists even a few months ago. I think Justin had a few of these items on the list already brought here. And most of these top items have been sold already. The next list is there's 4 items there with, we think we could pare down some of that small truck feet, some roller in there, I think we could pare down. And then there's some other items below that that could be possible you could pare down. But when I look at this list, I guess it's good and bad. The good is the crew, they've been doing a good job of actually not keeping a lot of extra stuff around, you know. So there's not as much on this list that is really easy to pare off. The challenge of that is, you know, how are we going to overcome where we're at now? Because we have this big turnover issue right now with our numbers. So at the bottom, I put on there for me, the small truck area and the specialty truck area are the two biggest areas I'd focus on, especially the small truck area. You're carrying a lot of small trucks for the amount of employees you actually have. So that's something through turnover. Maybe we can actually pare that down some. So now you flip after that page. This is a reworking now. We're saying okay, we got a few pieces we think we can sell and do a few things with here that are easier. Now let's go back to the turnover plan, and now let's go back and start modifying that turnover plan. We know we're already beyond the normal years of turning over equipment, so let's start a process of looking at a 5-year plan where we got to start fitting everything in, no matter what year it is. And so this is a first crack at that. Again, this is a draft. I've gone through with Justin, looking at priorities in the department right now. We started working on, like, for this year, we already, you know, having stuff already kind of purchased for this year. Now looking at next year, what are the priorities? And what you'll notice if you look at that is this plan already starts putting in some options to try to save some money by almost no choice right now how far we are. The gap is so big as far as purchasing that we almost have no choice than to try to start looking at for some better used equipment, even in some areas. So we're looking at some plow trucks and things like that, where maybe we could find some trucks that are used, but they're only 8 years old instead of 18 years old, you know. And so that's part of this plan already. So you flip through these pages, putting in some turnover, also trying to factor in maybe some used equipment in some areas, or trying to do what we can do. And that needs more work and more refining. We just got to see what's available to try to make that work. And after putting all that in, go through all those 4 pages again. The back, you know, we'll start with the charts again, because in the end, I just did some charts here again, just to give you guys an idea on your numbers right now. We start with the same chart at $8.8 million backlog. Up to the next chart. If you took that and just balanced that out over 5 years, said we're just going to replace a balance, what would it cost? Well, it's over $2 million per year. Problem with that is, again, you're only creating $280,000 a year, right? So you have damn near a $2 million deficit from what you're per year from what you actually are creating in your own equipment fund. Go to the third page, and this is the modified one I started creating right now. Trying to push some things back so we can kind of work on what we're doing now to see what improvements can we make. Part of this buys us some time too going forward is what can we do to change these numbers around? What can we do to get your $30 at the bottom increasing? And that's when I first started. I told you guys that what you're creating in your equipment fund right now. I think we can get it higher. It's a matter of how high we can get it. Can we get it to 400,000? Can we get it to 500,000? That's the ultimate goal here, is to find more efficiencies in how we're operating, pare some things down, do what we can do, create efficiencies, and start getting that number higher. Outside of that, there's still a massive gap already, and we still have to work on where we go to try to close this gap even further, because if there's no other funding out there and there's no capital funding out there, what are you going to do going forward here, I guess, is the question. Because when you flip to the next page, that's kind of the gap you're looking at, which is probably the biggest gap. I've worked for a lot of years doing this, and I've worked for help other counties in the picture. I'm actually helping multiple counties right now, and I'm working with as a consultant right now. Probably one of the biggest gaps I'm dealing with right now is your gap right now that I'm looking at is how do we do this and how do we try to close this gap where we can create more revenue. And I'll tell you one thing, your equipment fund and the equipment rates set up, they're set up for a reason. They're set up that ultimately to be self-sustaining. And the problem now is, even if we could get back to the point where it's closer to what it should be for being more of a self-sustaining fund, again, how do we deal with this gap again, which is another area we're talking about, a big funding gap in right now, is how do we get out of this hole we've kind of dug now where we have this much old equipment, and so there's a lot of challenges here to try to overcome this right now. I definitely have ideas, and we're going to talk through that again. Again, there may be some more things where we have to press on going the used route on certain things just to buy the time for a little while to try to improve the situation, because again, we have every other day. I mean, the paver was, a month ago was almost dead in the water, and how do you operate again without a paved roads without a paver, and we got to spend a lot of money on that just to get it running this year, and we're fighting fires all the time, and I don't like to be in that position where we're fighting a fire here and then fighting a fire here and have to throw 200, 300,000 when we don't have that money hardly here. Try to get a plan going here. We try to get this in a systematic approach, try to pare these numbers down some and work on it, but it's going to be a multi-year process. I walked into this process, and I think I talked to you guys about this when I first got hired here, when I first took over, 20 years ago when I was commissioner in Jefferson County. I was creating about 400,000 in that fund is all I was creating, in a much larger county than you guys. And I had about a $9 or $10 million gap there. And within 5, 6, 7, 8 years there, we were able to eliminate the funding gap. Took a lot of hard choices, really paring down our equipment, doing things like that. And there were some easier things to do there than they are here, because they were carrying a lot of surplus equipment that it was easy to actually pare down some more trucks and things like that. And they had some more value and stuff, easier to sell and rearrange things. Not the case here, where you guys don't have much surplus equipment, a few pieces, but not much. So it's a bigger challenge. But the biggest challenge is to try to increase your revenue in your equipment fund. That's by far the biggest. And there are some other options there that I'm not going to talk about today, but I guess we'll continue to look at it and talk about it. But I want to get you guys, promise you guys, I'd get you a report on this. I want to get you a draft of the numbers are going to go into that, and work on this over the next several months. I'll definitely do more of a formal report, some more recommendations as we kind of work through the process actually on how to try to improve this some more here. It gives you all the numbers on what you're dealing with right now. So I don't know if there's any questions at all on just what you're seeing, but a lot of information in there. You pick through it, and everything broke it down, but I try to summarize it in a way that's hopefully somewhat easy to kind of look at and see the different areas of your fleets and where things are at right now.
Got 2 more highway trucks coming in, right? Plow trucks?
Yep.
That is scheduled for what?
No.
Sooner?
So, as it sits right now, beginning of 26, maybe a little later than that. Depends on.
Into next year.
Yes.
We're talking, I mean, I told Justin, I have some contacts where potentially could be some used plow trucks that, they're far newer and far nicer than what you guys have now. And so that's an avenue we may have to pursue a little bit just to try to, in the interim here, get some things changed out. So again, we just don't want things dying. If we can buy something that's 8 or 9 years old and instead of something 20 years old, I'm not into buying used, certain things used that much like plow trucks, but we may have no choice than to try to do a little bit more of that just to try to hold the gap here. Otherwise, challenges now, the equipment costs have skyrocketed, which you guys all know in the last 4 or 5 years. It's gone crazy when you're spending 400, 500,000 for a plow truck now, and you guys don't have enough money to replace. And it's a tough situation to be in at this point. Let's put it that way. It's a challenge for everybody right now. But if you have a large funding situation like this where you're in the hole already, you're going to start seeing more and more fires where these guys are coming to you because these trucks are broke down, or that's broke down to what the things they need, and you're dealing with a $300,000-$400,000 decision, which we want to try to get out of if we can start improving this more and have a plan here. We can to start turning some things out that help improve the situation some. So.
We still haven't sold that one cat loader, huh? That 966. It's gone?
Yeah.
Oh, it says sell on here. It didn't say sold.
Okay, that would be that might be in here.
No, that's fine. I thought we were gonna sell it, but
Well, maybe in the data, but that full page actually has it on there. So maybe in the other data it wasn't.
well, good.
Yeah, it's here. It is, yeah. Yeah, if you look at the page, we have sales list that's on there.
One of your questions on this one form towards the back, how do we get to
Say again?
that's it? One of the questions on here, it says, how did we get in these positions? So I mean, just being too frugal and not staying on an equipment plan.
Yeah, that's why you have a plan. I mean, it's really easy when you don't have a plan. It's really easy year to year. That's what happens with a lot of counties and cities. It seems like it's easy to put it off, right? If you do a year to year thing, and 1 year you come up, it's like budgets are tight. We don't have any money. Let's just put up and buy any equipment this year or for a few years, and easy to do, but if you have a die, it just ends up biting you, and so I would anticipate if I go back, but I'm seeing the years of some of the stuff. I mean, it's been turned over in 25 years, 30 years, and again, I don't know, some counties aren't necessarily targeting their funding for replacement that was, maybe should have went for equipment replacement. It was going on the road and for other things and, but it's gotta be consistent. You gotta stay with it every year if you're gonna not get yourself in this situation.
I think we're really crippled. It was before I got on here. I think we're really crippled. It was the fact that the asphalt plant went way over. That probably started it because you're saying, I think you said somewhere in here 4 years ago, it started at 283,000 equipment fund. Well, that's about the time the 500,000 or maybe a little before that got taken out of it for the plant. And then I think there was kind of some unforeseen expected.
Those are two different funds. So the Blacktop Plant Fund is separate from the Equipment Fund,
Right, but you had 500,000 taken out.
the Blacktop Plant Fund.
I thought it went on the equipment fund to help the blacktop plant.
Nope. No,
I thought somebody told me once that back a few years ago, there was 500,000 taken out of the equipment fund to help offset the cost of the blacktop plant.
no, before we were approved to purchase the Blacktop Plant, there was $500,000 taken from the Blacktop Plant Fund
I misunderstood.
and given to the general fund.
Okay, that's where the fund
Yeah.
came out of. All right.
The Equipment Fund has not been touched.
Oh, right.
I see a lot of when I look at counties, you ask a question, I see a lot of counties, it's just inconsistent. If I look back at what they spent, their equipment, on equipment every year. One year it's 700,000, next year it's 200,000 and 300,000, 400. It's just not, it's just a consistent, if you're not consistently, when you own 12, 13, 14, $15 million worth of equipment, you know what it is like anything else. You gotta spend so much per year to keep it up. And if it's just, you go year to year in budgets and, 1 year or 2 year or 3 year or 4 years, you're spending a little over here and a little over there, it's gonna bite you, but the part of it is that operationally, you gotta be running the equipment efficiently too, so it's both things, it's what you're spending to upgrade, but it's also how you're operating that fund, because that fund being that little is fighting you too, because you have no money, you're not creating much money at all in your equipment fund right now. It's low as you're gonna, it's a tough position to be in. And even a lot of small counties around your area here, you're gonna see that they're creating, 400, 500, 600,000 a lot of times in their equipment fund or more, depending on what they're actually doing for work.
Oh,
You see, if you don't have the money, you can't spend it either if it's not theirs.
all right. Anybody got any more questions for Mr. Kern? Nothing more. I'm gonna move on to the highway safety report.
We did cancel our safety with Dustin this last month here. With project starting up, we didn't want to pull the crew off of the job with Dustin too. So we will reschedule that later date. We are not starting early and working late.
Anything we didn't know about safety standpoint?
The two individuals that are out hurt, I typically keep in contact with them. If I can't talk to them every week, I talk to them every 2 weeks. And as far as talking with them, they're doing well. They're ready to come back, but they're not.
No new accidents we didn't know about or anything.
No, not that I'm aware of right now.
Awesome. Good to hear. All right, next up, highway financial report.
Yeah, so start off with winter maintenance. Like I said earlier, we are sitting pretty good there for winter maintenance. Well, not too bad. And typically the beginning of the year is the worst part. Well, later on from October to December isn't as bad typically. And then we have the budget transfer requests from March. And so these are just for like the levy budgets, the admin, maintenance, the construction, and then bridge and culvert aid. So these amounts are a little bit behind what was in those budget reports, just because These are based on my closings, when I closed the month. And, the budget reports was more of a, right now, kind of at the day that I was looking at it, that's what all the expenses were coming in as, depending on what had been posted to our, accounting software. But this gives you more of a line item, you know, expenses, where they're hitting within the budgets, so you can kind of see that detail. Then, accounts receivable, uh, there's not much for concerns there. You see, we do have a township that has, an amount there that's been sitting out there quite a while. Not sure what happened there, but, they've been paying more recent invoices rather than, I think the one from December. And so, last time we sent out billing, I believe we added a note on there about that invoice. So, I don't know if they just didn't realize, they could have maybe sent in a payment and it got lost in the mail, and so they're thinking it's paid and we haven't received it. So that could happen. So hopefully they, take a look at that. And the next report is the, equipment operations. So all of our equipment, the cost so far, this is through, the end of April. Costs, and revenue we brought in for that equipment. And then the estimated financials. Where we're at for billing for April and year to date. Updated our projects. Our fund, everything is kind of staying the same, except for the projects for 2025 and then county MBIL. Blacktop plant, repairs, so far, nothing for this year through April. We fire it up, then we might see some costs going in there then. And then the equipment fund balance and blacktop plant fund balance as of March 3rd. So Kurt, I was saying with the budget transfer reports, those are similar to the budget reports, except for they're not as up to date. I prepare them as I close the months, but they're just on our levy budget. And they give you more detail as to what's hitting the budget and what those expenses are for.
Yeah, page 4, I mean, this is small, but there's for, equipment operations, $28 to a Ford Explorer for senior services.
Oh, so that's not our equipment.
I didn't think so, but,
So we did repairs on that.
oh, it's repairs. Okay.
Yeah, those are
We
repairs
get,
that
okay.
we did for them, oil changes, tires.
That's what I thought, but it was, the way I was reading it was,
Yeah. So senior services, the reason why they're on the report is, we put them in our system as a piece of our equipment so that when we run our reports for, services like oil changes and things like that, it comes up on our report, so then we can let them know, because we're having a hard time, getting it in a timely fashion for like oil changes. So we did that to kind of help them out.
Right. Anything else, guy?
Nope, I don't have anything else.
Anybody got any questions, for this guy? All right, any announcements? No announcements, anybody knows of? All right. We move on to pay the invoices.
Anything unusual? That's, since it's my first time, I was like 20,000. Well,
Many pages and so on.
that's just a down payment on them 2026 Western Stars. That's what that 100
Purchase of the truck.
of the chassis or whatever.
Gotta go to Monroe. It's sitting in Monroe right now.
Yeah, waiting for them to put the body on it and
Correct.
Okay.
They actually had the truck in February. There was some billing. The manufacturer to them, they had to adjust the price. It was locked in, so there's just some workaround, but they couldn't get the trucks to Monroe anyways, and they're flooded right now. So they're parked in their parking lot. I got pictures and everything, so they're there. I've been on 'em.
well. You figure it'll take them until this fall to get them to you.
No, 26, probably at the soonest, January, February.
I see we got a lot of salt in April. Is that shed full?
Yes.
Yes.
You always fill it up every spring? Cause we're having trouble with that water running in there. That's why I'm asking.
The issue is we pre-bought last year to have some for the winter and we barely used any. So if it would have sat at the dock, what was it, $6 a ton they were gonna charge us for storage fee?
So we had to take it.
Yeah, we had to take it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my next question was gonna be. I was assuming it was fulfilling a contract. Gotcha. Actually, I think somebody brought it up to me last week. Is County Hall and not working? So I'm assuming they're fulfilling a contract. What's that?
Everything in here looks good.
Okay. Well,
I like the motion to approve bills.
all right, motion for Mr. Hampton to approve paying the invoices. Need a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Gorsinger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pay the bills, set date for the next highway meeting. I think it is 16th. I'm gone. See what time do I got? Yeah. I mean, you guys can have it. I might be around for a little bit of it in the morning, but then I gotta be to the Dells by like noon that day. Okay. So if you guys wanna just keep it that day, we can. You good with it, Kurt?
What's that?
You good with it? I probably won't be here that day, but just have to make sure Jerry is. If you guys wanna leave it that day, we'll leave it, cause I really don't like moving around anyhow.
It's fine with me if you're okay with it. Otherwise.
Yep. I might be able to make it for an hour or something in the morning, but I'll see.
Later, it's 4 hours.
All right, we're gonna leave it at June 16th, 8 AM.
Typically not this long.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Phone's been blowing up.
Here none, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I said,
Oh, did you? Mr. Hampton made it. I'll second it for him. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. 11:30. There's a lot of stuff on here today. I saw that packet. I'm like, oh, crap.
Huge penny.
Now, whoever talks to Jerry first, tell him that we just kept moving everything the next month.
Thank you, Stan.
And I like it. Like, hold it, and I'm like, we're gonna move that, but